What's up, wrestling card collectors? Welcome to another edition of WTCtv. We are doing a National 2022 recap. How is everybody doing?
Great.
Playing.
Fantastic.
Everybody seems worn out. What the hell, man? Jesus Christ.
Took 2 days to recover for my drive home.
All right.
It's like 100 degrees here, and I do HVAC as my day job, so I'm shot right now.
Busy.
Well, at least you made it to this little podcasty thing here. So thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. First time on.
Hey, that's right, Chris. First time you're on. We'll have to have you on a solo one at some point. But we all came back from the National. We survived. I think we still have our wallets. We didn't get mugged. Can we get a show of hands of all those who've been propositioned the entire week too for drugs or hookers?
None
of us. Okay, cool. So general thoughts. Let's just get some general thoughts going here. I got a list of some things I want to kind of go out like that, but just overall, Ryan, start things off for us. Your general thoughts real quick.
It was crazy busy, and I was there the half day Wednesday and then all day Thursday, and I can tell you that typically those are the slower days. Historically, those have been the slower days, and they were absolutely packed. And for what I'm reading and hearing from other people is that Thursday was the absolute busiest day of the show, which is interesting. So, a lot of stuff that it's a lot of high end, a lot of people looking to sell back to dealers, which has been different from the previous year. A lot more interactive stuff. I think a lot more, there's definitely a celebrity aura now with a lot of people, breakers, content creators, stuff like that. So I thought it was a great show. The convention center itself was great. The city wasn't, but I mean, I had a pretty good time. So
what about you, Caleb?
Yeah, I was only there for Thursday, so that all my experience is going to be based around that one day, and it's pretty interesting to hear that people are saying that was the busiest day, because it definitely felt like there was a lot of people there. It was pretty crowded, kind of hard to maneuver through some of the aisles. One of the things I thought was really cool, there was a lot of younger collectors there. That's not something I see a lot at the local card shows that I go to in North Carolina. So that was pretty exciting to see that aspect. Definitely seemed like the hobby is alive and well in that regard. One of the more downsides, I guess, is there was a very much like hype beast sort of air to a lot of the collectors there. People throwing packs into crowds and boxes and stuff, and kind of like what Ryan mentioned, a lot of celebrity like influencer stuff going on. And if that's what you're into, more power to you. That's not really my vibe or my cup of tea, but just something interesting that I noticed.
What's up with you, Mr. Paul Price Guide? How about you? This is your second convention you've ever gone to for National.
Yeah, guys, like I had a blast. Absolutely. I mean, the show aside, like, I mean, it was exhaustive and there was a lot of people, and I enjoyed seeing all the cards and the memorabilia and Piper's boots and stuff. For me, the gas was meeting you guys, after so long, just hanging out, like shit. We went on a Ferris wheel together. We played mini golf. You bought us ice cream on the boardwalk. It was like I was a teenager all over again, So for me, despite the show, like, it was busy, and, we'll talk more about the pros and cons of it. For me, I was just happy to be there and meet all you guys. It was amazing.
How about you, Chuckster? Your first one ever.
My first one, and frankly, I was just completely overwhelmed when I walked in there the first night, and that was just the preview night. I don't know what I was expecting, but that wasn't it. And the Pittsburgh Comic-Con I went to with you had nothing on this. This was 10 times bigger.
Yep.
And the first night was pretty good. The second day, like Ryan said, it was a really busy day. He said it was probably the busiest day there. To me, it seemed like Friday was the busier day for me, because Thursday, even as busy as it was, I was still able to get close to the booths and look at stuff. Friday, when I went in, you couldn't even get down the aisles. I mean, I had to you had to elbow your way if you wanted to get into to see a booth.
Yeah, you go into running back mode, man. Just start trying to find yourself a hole.
But according to Paul, same sentiment as Paul. As much as I enjoyed the card show, I enjoyed more meeting all you guys in person. Made 2 really good new friends with Ryan and Chris. I think you guys were great. We had a ball that night when we went out after the show, and I was just great to meet new friends and get to see some old friends in person. That was great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, because for people watching or listening, this is this panel right here we have is basically the dinner we had afterwards. Like this is our group. We were expecting more, but we got the best of the best, I think. So what about for you, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, to just lead with, as Chuckster was saying, the best part of it all for me was definitely the dinner that we had together. It's funny because by that point, I got back to my hotel room, which was at the Hard Rock, which was also where our dinner was. And I looked at my phone just to see how many steps I took on the day. And I saw I was at 25,000 for the day.
Same here.
And I sat on my hotel bed and I contemplated for a quick second, do I want to just do room service and just crash at this point? But I was like, no, let me get up, let me hang out with these guys and have a good time. And
glad you did.
That was hands down the best part of the night. I could have kept going all night, and we were there for I think like 4 hours.
Yeah, we were. It was 4 hours, but Caleb broke it up because he started yawning.
Yeah, he sure did.
At midnight.
And then he goes like, guys, I got a 2-hour drive.
I felt bad because I wasn't the one
on a 2-hour drive.
But to touch on the actual convention side of things, you know, I went into this thing, this was my first national, but for the past 10 years, I'd say I've gone to New York Comic-Con every single year. So in a sense, that kind of briefed me on what to expect at this. It's obviously 2 very different animals, but it sort of gave me like, I knew how to navigate the floor without getting too overwhelmed and like veering from one section to another section and staying focused and going up and down the lanes. And I think what made it easier for me is I made a conscious decision before the show that I'm only going to focus on wrestling cards. That's all I'm going to look for. So basically what I did is I would just go up and down the lanes and look at the glass showcases and hover over people basically and look for wrestling cards. I didn't dig too deep at certain tables because I just felt like I wouldn't have the time to, nor the patience to do that. So basically I just attacked it in the sense of look for wrestling cards. If I see wrestling cards, if I see UFC, if I see F1, if I see anything that's a little bit left of center, then maybe there's a chance. And then I would sort of start conversation and see what they had and take it from there. And I think by doing that, that allowed my 2 days there to not be too overwhelming, to see everything that I wanted to see, basically.
Kind of the same I felt. If I just didn't see or sense any wrestling, I just kept moving on.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Chuckster and Paul and I pretty much hung out the entire time together, and we just kind of just went down the aisles, and if we didn't see something, I mean, it was 3 sets of eyes, and we pretty much covered what we needed to see, and just kept moving if we didn't see anything. So,
sure. Yeah.
Quick question for you guys, and I got some questions I want to ask you guys. Everybody can chime in whenever you like. What do you guys think of the layout of the show?
Well, I'll go first and say that when I first got in there, I entered, I guess it's the main section, and there was like I forget what it was called, like section something C to the right.
Yeah.
I entered the main section and I just saw what was in front of me. And as I was making my way up and down that area, I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. But then as I got further in, I saw that whole set where the main stage was basically. Yep. I saw that whole section. I was like, oh, okay. This is a little bit bigger than I expected off of the my immediate reaction, basically.
What about you?
Yeah, going along that, I ran into you guys, Tony, Paul, and Chuck, as I was kind of completing my lap of that section and had no idea where the stage was. So that's what my goal was, to at least find where that was, so I knew where I was going. And even after walking around for 30 minutes, I still didn't know where it was and had to ask you guys. So it was definitely a very large venue. I didn't think the setup was too terribly confusing after you made a pass through, maybe. But I know for a fact that there's a bunch of stuff that I didn't see just because I wasn't going systematically. I was kind of walking around at random.
I liked how they had all the sections marked off, like row 100, row 200, 300.
Yeah.
That kind of knew where you were. The only thing I didn't quite get a handle on was the table numbers themselves. They were nowhere to be seen on the table. So if somebody said they were at table 325, where's 320? You go to the 300 row and just kind of hope you find it. You know, the tables weren't numbered. I kind of wish that had been a thing, but other than that, I think it was laid out pretty well.
Conventions like that, and especially that size of any convention, really, typically they will have a number on them. They'll put some generic little thing up on top. And what happens most times is that vendors will just take that down, put up their own banners and things like that.
Right.
So that's kind of, you'd think they'd, floor them off, like put them on the floor right there in front. That would be something to do, but
yeah.
Or Ryan?
Paul, go ahead.
Layout wise, all good. We found the stage. I mean, when we got there, our first sort of priority was that Tony, you wanted to get to that PSA booth before it got too crazy. Smart that you did, because we laughed every time we went by there subsequently about how it was, we couldn't even walk the aisle anymore. But we got there and we found that GTS was on the case, like sort of looking after all the production stuff. And we did, I guess it was the day of the panel, the three of us, we decided to start in one corner, and we basically walked up and down the aisles sort of systematically to try and catch the lion's share of it. And I think we did, based on how our backs were feeling and such, that we certainly covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, the only place we didn't kind of go up and down was in that manufacturer. There were tops and upper deck and the grading.
Yeah, well, I remember you'd like the carpet. Meet me on the top's carpet. There was no question you doing standing there.
It's like walking on a cloud, man. That was the best part.
They knew what they were doing with that.
They sure did. They're not new.
Yeah.
So I think personally, just from shows past, I think that the corporate area, the carpeted area, was extremely cluttered.
Yeah.
It was almost like they had to jam so many more sponsors, corporate entities into this area. You had, what's the one that did the Stranger Things? It's
something cool.
Yeah. So Zero Cool was there, and they had a huge booth. And then not only did Topps have a booth, but Fanatics had a booth. And I just feel like that was a very, very cluttered, jammed together area. I think having the breakers area between PSA, the stage, and dealers was not a good idea. If you were there, it was just nothing but nonstop yelling. Yeah. About the breakers, just yelling over about everything. And I think that if they're going to continue to do this, which they will, obviously, in light of what Fanatics seems to be doing with their deals with breakers, I think you should probably move that to a separate room. You should almost probably move that to a separate room where they can all just scream at each other like a monkey cage.
Yeah, so that could have gone in the VIP room.
Yeah, whatever. But, you had the breakers right next to the stage, and every time somebody was trying to present something, you had a guy screaming about a Magic card 10 feet away. And I know that I talked to some of the dealers who were right there on the outskirts there, and they were like, man, they don't stop. They don't stop. They just scream and scream and scream. And I get it. That's like the culture, and that's what breakers are now for the most part. But and the show seemed a lot louder than previous years. And that's just because of so many more dealers, so many more corporate entities, so many breakers, on top of the PSA booth being there, on top of the stage being there. But yeah, you guys are right. You have to go row by row. You have to go row by row. And if you diverge off that, you could miss 30, 40, 50 tables easy and not even know it. So going up and down, and that's what I said, I think in the first video I did with the national prep, is that just start at a point and go up and down, left and right. And then you see everything and you'll know pretty much what they have and where you can go. But yeah, there was a part, I'm with Caleb. There was a part there where I turned around and I saw a section I hadn't even looked at, and it was probably 20 tables.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, we made a conscious effort to go the outside perimeter because our first day there was actually to find the stage, introduce ourselves, get things what we need to do to get prepped. So we went around the stage, the whole outside area. And then the second day we said, you know what, we're starting this corner, and worked our way up and down every single aisle, and got a little bit, you know, misdirection in that corporate area. So like that, because it's so like here, there, and everywhere kind of thing. There really wasn't any aisles in that area. And you just kind of go from one to the next. But then you got the other side of it, you go back up and down the aisles again. But I still feel like we missed stuff. I think we probably did miss some things. We can't see everything.
I guarantee you missed stuff. I know. I started reading people's reports from it, and I'm like, I didn't even know they were doing that. I didn't know that was given out. I didn't know this guy was signing. I mean, I didn't know anything about, you know, like the Project 70 and the Project 2020 artists signing at Tops. I knew nothing about that. It's just,
which leads me to ask you guys like that overall presentation of the show, as far as, you know, how was it? Was there enough to do, you thought there? Was there certain giveaways that you were expecting or weren't expecting that you didn't even know, like you said, didn't even know was happening?
I think I was pretty much completely naive to all of those additional aspects, the giveaways, the exclusives, all that stuff. I don't know if that's just me, if that's just my focus doesn't lie on that, or if it just wasn't obviously presented enough in my face. Because I feel like I just was so focused at each table that it didn't even come to light. Like I didn't even take notice of any of that stuff, any of those free giveaways or any of that stuff like that. So it's hard to say whether it was just my own, you know, laser dial focus, or if it was just, you know, not presented, not marketed well enough by the distributors.
Yeah, I mean, it still fits, you know, even going to a pop culture conventions like a New York Comic Con or San Diego Comic Con, which are big events, you know, those places also have a lot of free giveaways and promo cards like that too. So
yeah, I feel like, you know, like, sorry to interrupt, but like just comparatively speaking, I feel like it's more in your face at those things. Like
it really is. You're right.
Literally get handed to you as you're walking up and down the aisles. You get the bags, you get everything. Whereas like at this, it felt like you had to make a little bit more of an effort to get
100%.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing, because that's not really what you're there for. You're there to go, you know, hopefully go shop and check out all the different cards, just like that. But you know, as manufacturers there, they're kind of used to going to these other shows and handing out stuff and throwing T-shirts and all that other crap. And so, any other thoughts?
I'm kind of pleasantly surprised about is being it's called the National Sports Card Convention. I was expecting total nothing but sports with some wrestling thrown in, because we were kind of going to be there. But I was pleasantly surprised to see a lot of non-sports, a lot of pop culture stuff on there. Yeah. That I was pleased with, because that's more my forte. I'm not really into the sports end of it, but I went and was really pleasantly surprised to see like old TV show cards, movie cards, you know, different cards like that. And that's what I was really happy to see. Kind of felt more at home. I felt like I had something that interested me there instead of just sports cards.
Yeah, because you picked up a couple non-sport things, I think, right?
I did, yes. Okay. And I also picked up 2 blasters of the AEW, that first set of AEW, which I'd never, ever been able to find. And surprisingly got some pretty nice hits out of it. I didn't get no autographs, but one of the boxes I opened up had 2 double swatch cards in it. Yeah.
Nice.
Picked up more.
Chuck, how did those Davy Crockett's go over with Marie? Was she surprised?
Oh my goodness, yeah, she loved them. We've been searching eBay right now trying to find the rest of them, and we've almost completed it.
Nice.
So, yeah, she was really chuckle with us.
What about for you, Caleb? What do you think about the giveaways, presentation overall, stuff like that? Anything you expected?
Kind of like what Chris mentioned. It was very much like a lot of the stuff you really had to like know what you were looking for and go out of your way to get it. Kind of the one that comes to mind is the eBay DJ Ski stuff. I didn't end up getting those cards. I know, Ryan, you had a whole adventure with those cards and trying to complete the set and everything. I didn't even bother with that. But one of the really cool giveaways that I thought was like a nice tangible thing is CSG was outside of their booth for a lot of Thursday, passing out like sample slabs basically.
Yeah, I got it.
It would be a random card. Like I got 2 of them, I think. The first one I got was actually graded, and it was a nobody pitcher in the MLB, but it had the 42nd National Sports Card Convention in Atlantic City on the slab and the text. And I think that was great for people to be able to get the slabs in their hands, see the quality and everything. And that was one of the giveaways I really enjoyed. Wish there would have been some AEW stuff with Upper Deck. There was a CM Punk card in their Rapper Redemption, but I wasn't going to buy any of the hobby boxes for a chance at the CM Punk card.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, sorry.
No, Chris, go ahead.
Out of curiosity, Caleb, did you happen to see any sort of AEW singles offerings at tables or anything like that?
I really didn't. Again, I was not doing the best job of like going through each row and keeping track of what I had seen, but most of the wrestling I saw was vintage, high-end wrestling all-stars, WCW autos. Saw a little bit of Prism, a little bit of like Finest and that sort of thing, but I didn't really see any AEW singles.
Yeah, same here.
That's strange. What do you think?
I was
all the Andre the Giant cards was pretty awesome too.
Which one?
The guy who had all the Andre the Giant cards.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was a pretty decent table. I like that.
What do you got, Ryan?
I was a little disappointed with Panini not having any kind of wrestling in their silver packs. It was the same baseball, football, basketball, a little bit of NASCAR, and I think that was really a missed opportunity.
Did they say they're wrestling though for like a VIP party that weekend too though? I saw an Eddie Guerrero one. I saw a Macho Man one.
Are you talking about the badges?
Is that what they were, badges?
Yeah, those are the VIP badges. So They put a card in the badge that the people wear around their neck. Okay. And that's, because I found the Guerrero on David Adams and I'm watching the Macho Man, but the seller seems to think he's really got like a house payment. So, we'll see. I'm not really willing to go too deep on it, but I feel like it was just neglected again. But the same thing with UFC, like Panini didn't do anything as much as they pump UFC on their blog and stuff like that. They didn't add anything into the silver packs or the gold packs with UFC, nothing with WWE. Upper Deck, I think, missed a huge opportunity. For years, I've kind of been on an Upper Deck that like nobody really wants a card of 45-year-old Barry Sanders in a polo, which is what they do. I mean, because they don't have the licenses and stuff for the jerseys. So they have like Wayne Gretzky, like in a Christmas sweater, and Barry Sanders in a polo. And I think
it's compared to like these little promos they gave away at the card ladder one. Like, it's Tom Brady, the golfer.
Yeah, but even that's light years ahead of what Upper Deck I think is putting out. And with Upper Deck, you actually have a license, a tangible license that you have the rights to, and you neglected to do anything with it. Where, I mean, we all know that the AEW product went absolutely bonkers. It went crazy. People love it. People are still opening it to this day. Chuck bought 2 blasters for a product that's been out, 8 months now. And usually products are forgotten within 2 months. I just think they really missed an opportunity to like debut, I don't know, a hook card. I think a hook card from the National would have been absolutely enormous.
Yeah.
Thunder Rosa, just the people that weren't in the first series to put together a 5 or 10 card set of just AEW would have been magnificent. And it really wasn't.
It's surprising to me that they did the 9 card promo sheet, the first one, at some event. I can't remember what event it
New York Comic Con.
And then they do the next promo set for with the next release coming out for another like a live like pay-per-view. They didn't have a special national promo set. Would have been amazing.
No, they had to get the Wayne Gretzky in the sweater.
That's true.
We did get a nice card at the Panini booth. The Chuckster got himself a virtual card. They had a booth, get your picture taken on a card, and then the virtual card, which I thought was pretty cool. And I think Paul and Tony have a dual card.
Yep. More information about those coming soon. But yeah, that was kind of fun. I like that. I was a little underwhelmed when it came to all the main manufacturers. I'm used to doing the Comic Cons and pop culture shows where even Tops at Comic Con San Diego would always had you know, tons of promos. Like, I don't care, it ended up being GPK or Wackies or Lord of the Rings when they had that license, or whatever it was, Star Wars. I mean, there was none of that stuff really from any of these manufacturers out there, that unless you had to buy something in order to redeem something. And the only thing I saw at Panini when it came to wrestling was when they had their box wars. You know, basically you had to buy Revolution to do a box war. That was all I ever saw. I mean, other than a banner of Sting over the upper deck booth, I didn't see anything in there. Granted, when I mentioned who we were, you know, they gave us a brake mat and some lanyards, just like that. But other than that, there was no new product there. And I thought that was kind of, you know, a little letdown. Yeah. So then with all this stuff like that, what did you guys think? What was the best thing you guys saw or did outside of our dinner? Because we all know that's the best thing. What was the best thing you guys saw or did, and the worst thing that you guys saw or did that weekend? Paul?
Thing was all of the walking.
All right.
All of the walking. That just kind of wore me out. My lower back and my feet. I even got the good shoes, like Ryan suggests. I even went out and bought a good pair. And, but it just, my feet was the worst part. Best thing, honestly, I think, was our fabulous showcase that we did on our panel on Thursday night. I just think I've watched the playback of that, and I just think it was awesome. I think everybody pulled their weight, did a great show, got their points across, and it's already getting a lot of views on YouTube. So if anybody hasn't seen it, check it out, man. It's great.
It's good stuff there.
Thanks, of course, to Card Foundation, to Johnny and Danny as well for being there with us. They contributed a great deal. I'd say my favorite thing again is all around the people, the memories. You know, like I met the Soup Nazi, which was kind of cool. You know, no soup for you. He's writing one after another, but it's just memories. Like, you know, don't mean to embarrass Ryan, but you know, Ryan's a veteran of this thing, and he's gone several times, and he brought a buddy with him, and his buddy's in a wheelchair, and you know, for us, we take for granted what would be, you know, quite hard for this guy. And this place was so fucking busy. You know, this guy wouldn't have even gotten close to the place, let alone through, if it wasn't for someone like Ryan getting them there and wheeling them around. And, you know, that was my first impression of the guy. I'm thinking, yeah, it's very cool. So it's stuff like that for me that sticks, you know.
You're going to kill my rep. Stop it.
Well, I remember I said, you know, the Jews call it a mitzvah. And you were like, yeah, I'm a metch.
You made me feel home the first day I met you. I walked out into the lobby and you just talk to me like you've known me forever.
Oh yeah, we made jokes about that. Going, hey Paul, how you doing? Hey Tony, how you doing? Chuckster, how are you, man? Like everywhere we went, man, it's like Chuckster's the man.
You know, for me, I mean, obviously the dinner was probably the best time I've had at a national. Period. End of story. And I've had some pretty good times in Chicago and stuff like that, man. Whoever said that dinner could have gone on, it could have.
Could have,
yeah. Absolutely could have. I mean, it got to the point, for those of you watching this at home, the waitress came by, took the charge slips and clocked out and went home.
She did.
And
those who didn't come, man, you guys missed out. It was fun.
And we just sat there, and it was like 6 friends who had known each other forever. Seriously.
Yep.
It was great.
Everybody was comfortable. Everybody had something to contribute. The show for me, you know, like I said, I've been doing this now. This is 2 decades worth of shows for me. I'm a little jaded. So for me, I agree with Paul. Meeting more people is really the goal for me now at this show. I bought one card. It was a Roddy Piper autograph that I had been looking for, and I was like, if I don't buy this card, I'm going home with no cards.
I could have got that Dusty one for you. Could have picked it up for you.
You know what? I should have, but I don't know. I got gun shy, and I knew you were busy with.
I would have got. I was like,
you reached out. You reached out to me on that one, literally right when I was pulling out of the parking garage.
We should have turned around. What are you doing?
Yeah, come on. It's you
know, for me, the worst part of it was the mile walk from the convention center to our hotel.
Yep.
And it wasn't the actual physical ability of the walk. It was the fact that Atlantic City that's sketch town, USA. And I made a post about it on Twitter, and you know, I think most people agreed. Some people got on me like, oh, you've never been to a city. I have been to a city. I've been to Baltimore, guys. I've been to Baltimore. I've walked around Baltimore. Atlantic City it's not a family place. It's not somewhere I'd take my kids 100%. I would never take my kids there. And I think that, you know, the Chicago show, Chicago show is not in Chicago. I want to make that very clear. It's in Rosemont, which is like 45 minutes away in the suburbs. It's 2 miles from O'Hare. A lot of stuff within walking distance, a lot of restaurants, and there's like 6 hotels right around the convention center. So it's a very safe place. So when you hear Chicago, don't think it's like right in the middle of Chicago. It's out in the suburbs.
I've done a few conventions at convention centers. The Donald D. Sterling Convention Center, I think it is, right?
No, Donald Sterling is the Clippers owner.
No, I can't remember. It's something. I know.
Stevens.
There you go. Yeah. I know there's a Gibson's right around the corner from there too.
And there's a Giordano's down the block.
Yeah. Just jump on the L train and get you right into downtown if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Paul and I found a couple of really nice shops right around near the convention center where we spent one afternoon just kind of browsing a couple of stores. The little shop area right around the convention center was nice. And over around the hotels and out on the boardwalk, it was nice. The rest of the part of the town, I wasn't impressed with at all. I wouldn't have walked out at night by myself down there.
I told you guys, keep that wallet in your front pocket.
Yeah, I've definitely seen better days at Atlantic City. It was my first time there, so I'm glad we were on the boardwalk and
one night
we were able to see some of these things.
One morning, and just it was nice and presentable. But if you got outside the casino and you weren't over near the convention center, it was pretty sketchy.
Yeah, I had some points I was going to bring up and get you guys a reaction, but we've kind of already covered all. I mean, there's the fear factor of the city. You don't even know what's going to happen. You have no idea who's going to proposition you. You have no idea what it is they're going to proposition you. And then you had the smell factor as well too. I mean, it was just everywhere you went. Again, I'm not an anti-weed person, but Jesus, there was like so much of it.
It's definitely seen better days, you know, like I'm sure back in the Trump days when he first came to town, it was a lot more spicier, but you know, that's a little dusty now for sure.
I'm from New Jersey, and I've been to Atlantic City probably 2 times, 3 times because I know what it entails. I mean, somehow I recently saw an article where NJ.com voted their boardwalk the best boardwalk, and that's from somebody that's from New Jersey. That's absolutely not the case because it's the second I stepped out of my hotel, I was approached for money. Like literally the second I stepped out of my hotel. And, you know, I completely agree with Ryan in the sense of it's definitely not a place you want to bring your family for a trip. Like it's just not, you know? So I guess I don't even know. I mean, in terms of convenience, there's not even an airport that's near there either.
No, it's terrible.
No, it's hard to get to.
Yeah, so I don't know why that would be the chosen destination, but I could see, as somebody that's from New Jersey, I can still see why it's not somewhere you want to have a convention like that ideally.
What about you, Cab? Best, worst thing for you?
For me, like this was my first national, so some of the stuff that I was really excited to see was kind of like the big like headline grail cards that were on display. Like you had the SGC 9.5 52 mantle. CSG had a really cool display of Michael Jordan game worn sneakers from finals appearances and stuff. And so as someone that didn't buy any cards, I didn't pick up anything. I really enjoyed just walking to some of the bigger booths like that and seeing like the memorabilia and the like kind of historic things that were there to offer. As far as worst part, kind of going back to like the hype beast and some of the breaker stuff that was going on. There was a moment where they were throwing out packs and boxes and stuff, and people were getting like pushed down to the ground. Like people were throwing elbows, boxing people out, trying to get like a mega box of Contenders football. And from some of the stuff that I've seen online, someone like broke their arm apparently in that crowd. And I think that's just a bad representation of the hobby and not a good look for us. So that was probably my low point for the convention.
Well, I don't know. For me, I'm going to say for me, worst thing for me, absolutely no cell coverage, no Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. Can't do anything while I'm in there. I can't really start doing any kind of short clips and put them up right away. I had to wait for laters like that. It was just absolutely horrible. A highlight for me, never thought it was going to happen, running into Gary Vee. I'm a big fan of Gary Vee, so I got to run into him. That was a big highlight for me. You know, again, outside the dinner, which was the end all be all for me. But what you guys? Go ahead.
Let me just offer my my best part. Aside from the obvious winner with the dinner, which, you know, has me ready to book my trip to the next convention. Which there was a point where that was a pipe dream, but now it's going to be a reality. It's predicated off of that experience. But what I would say, a decision that I was obviously happy with making was I kind of made a big purchase early on. I made a big purchase literally within the hour that I was there. And I was kind of hemming and hawing with the idea because I didn't want to, you know, blow my load too early on. And it ended up, based on the wrestling offering that was there at the end of the day, it ended up being the right decision. And it was something I was very happy with doing, you know? So doing that and making that impulsive decision worked in my favor in that particular instance, because I don't know if the card would have still been there if I gave it 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours.
That was your color blast, Chris?
Yeah, I have it over here. My lighting.
I don't think you can miss on a card like that, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, good move.
Picked up this the Sasha Banks color blast. My lighting.
Nice.
But
you can't miss on that, man.
Yeah. So
I was looking at I just got a text from him actually. A guy had 2 of the Ozzy Osbourne Inkworks autographs.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
And he wanted like $650 on them, which is a good price. And I was like, and I walked away. And I bought another card off of him, so I had his Venmo ID. So I Venmoed him a penny and said, "Hey, text me," and he sold them both. And I should have jumped, and I didn't. And I'm kind of kicking myself over the Dusty autograph as well. But you know what? It just leaves something to get next year, I guess. So
off of that, can I tell you guys my favorite story of the National?
Yep,
absolutely.
Chuck, you'll remember this. So they had a big VIP room with tables so that when you wanted to go have a bit of lunch or whatever, you can go sit. I think it was the Friday that we went in and all the tables were taken. So you were sharing with other people. You know, Chuck and I sat and there was a bunch of collectors around the table. And it seemed like one guy there was with his grandson or his son or whatever. And he went off and he had his box of cards and he was from Florida and he was a Brady guy. So, and he was saying to me that a lot of people were there for Tom Brady. He's probably the #1 name in the hobby. And just to your story, Ryan, he was telling me a story about a buddy of his that was at the Chicago show, either 2012 or 2014, I can't remember. And he went to a booth and there was a small stack of Brady's, not graded, just in top loaders. You know, he kind of signified there was like this much. And there was one card in there in particular that they both agreed at that time could be something. You know, Brady was on his way, but they both said this is a short print, you know, down the road, this could be something. And they kind of jokingly called that the money card, but the guy wanted 10 grand for the stack, which obviously is a lot of money back then, you know, thinking that far back. And this guy thinks about it and he goes to his hotel room. He's talking about like, it's 10 grand for God's sakes. And he calls his wife down in Florida and his wife says, honey, you know, do it, you live once kind of thing. So he goes and begrudgingly, he pays, you know, he's a huge Brady fan, obviously.
That's a good wife.
He's a good wife.
Yeah. So he pays the guy to 10 grand. The guy wasn't moving off to 10 grand for the stack. So, you know, he lets a couple of years pass. He figures, you know what? Loves that one card in particular that they said could be something. He said, you know, let's try my luck and get it graded. So he sends it to PSA, comes back at 10. So now he's ecstatic. He's living life. He's a business person with his desk and he's got that one Brady card sitting there and he looks at it every day. He's just a Brady collector and he's never thinking about anything else, but he managed to get that. So fast forward to COVID and all of a sudden the news comes around that, hey, cards are doing pretty well. So he's looking at that Grady and as much as he doesn't want to part with it, he figures out, fuck, let's put it out to auction and see what happens with the heritage or gold or whatever. Guys, $2.18 million for that one Grady card. The one.
Was it a Contenders Championship out of 100?
You know, I was looking it up after the fact to try and verify which one it was.
It has to be.
It must be, because the guy was telling the story, and Chuck will verify that when he started telling the story, him and I were listening, but by the end of it, there was a crowd of people coming in to sort of hear what the end of it was going to be. And I had a feeling, yeah, this guy's going to make large on that one card that he's like, this might be something.
It has to be. That's the only Brady card outside of like a logo patch, a logo,
something like that,
autograph.
but
and he probably would have said that specifically. It was probably the championship contenders ticket out of 100. I know a couple of them went for multiple million dollars last summer.
Yeah, so this was a buddy, his buddy from Tampa, that got in a stack of Brady's that he paid 10 grand for, begrudgingly. So there you go.
And that would have been probably in like Brady's lull, where he didn't win a championship for like 3 years.
Yeah, maybe.
So everybody
whatever the case. But I was thinking, the guy probably made a couple $100 grand on the thing, and 2.18. So it's like, okay,
That's still definition, a couple grand, 100 grand still.
Yeah.
Still fits the bill.
So that one, and the guy told the story well, that by the end of it, you're like, that's
what do you guys think for future shows? What could they do better? Anyone? Bueller?
Wi-Fi to start.
I think they need to separate out the breakers. Seriously.
Yes.
I think they need to make that their own area, specifically for that. As far as making it better, I mean, it really is an ever evolving monster, isn't it?
Sure.
This year I heard a lot of people saying that dealers were not coming off prices. I've been watching a couple of the video logs, and guys said, okay, I talked to this dealer and he said, I spent $5 grand to set up here. I'm not dealing. The price is the price. And I think that tends to be a little bit more the case with vintage, the vintage dealers. And I don't want to pick on a certain, part of the hobby, but my buddy was doing a 61 Topps baseball set, and those guys were pretty stiff on their prices, pretty stiff. Like, not even like 10% off.
Yeah,
so
I heard a lot of people talking about that this was very high priced. People were just not budging off their high prices, period.
Right. But you're talking, you're talking double, maybe triple what the price is. I mean, it's just absolutely asinine in some cases. And whereas the newer dealers, or the newer, like the higher modern, man, they were wheeling and dealing and buying and selling like crazy. I mean, I saw so many deals where people were selling and buying, and like the whole joke that everybody saw on Twitter about us talking about the money counter.
Yep.
That's because I watched a deal go down where a guy said, look, I need $9 grand for these 2 cards. And the guy goes, okay. And opens up his fanny pack and pulls out 10 grand in cash banded and handed it to the guy. And he goes, do you have a counter? And the dealer was like, no, I don't have a counter. And then he was like, the dealer was irritated. He has to count out 9 grand for himself.
Well, we saw that
probably like $1,000 a year ago.
We saw something similar like that with the kid. Remember, Paul?
The kid, yeah, 20 hour at a booth, and there's a young kid, maybe 8 years old, and he hands the dealer. He said, "You got change for 100."
Yeah,
right.
He asked him for the price, and the guy he pulls out a small little wad of money for this 8-year-old, maybe 9-year-old kid, and he hands him 100. Goes, "You got change for 100?" How many lawns did you mow this year, kid?
Yeah, I looked at the mother and I said, "Yeah, that's pretty good." She was smiling.
It's crazy.
I would say the one standout incident that kind of ticked me off the most was, I tweeted about this, was, recently I was listening to some podcasts where dealers were on these programs, and they were talking about their pet peeves and things that, consumers should keep in mind as they approach the table to not waste their time and blah, blah, blah. And, one of the things that gets reiterated is, if you're planning on selling cards to a dealer, make sure what's in your case are only cards that you plan to sell. Don't have your PC cards with the cards that you're considering selling, so that when the dealer approaches you and says, I'm interested in this card, and you pull it back and you say, no, I'm not sure if I want to sell it, to not create that confusion. Yeah. So there was, one particular table that I remember, and I saw this in a few different spots, but one particular table that I remember really caught my attention because it had a pretty nice offering of higher end wrestling cards. It had gold prisms, which, that speaks to me, those cards. And I gravitated to that immediately. And as I'm talking to one of the main dealer's associates, because the dealer wasn't there, they were speaking on the phone with each other. And as I was trying to get prices on these cards, he was deliberating if he wanted to sell them. He had no price tags on them. Even though they were front and center within the showcase, no price tags on them. Not sure if he wanted to sell it. He maybe wanted to sell the 9, but not the 10. And it just got to a point where it's just like, it's not worth it. And I just,
why bother?
I said, thank you for your time. And I just moved on. But it's like, you lost a sale. And
well, that actually happened with me. I don't know if you guys saw the guy who had the Spider-Man cards. Did you see the Spider-Man?
Yes. I know exactly
where he had like about. Every PMG, everything. And he had like multiple Tom Holland autographs. And I want to pick up a Holland autograph. And I was ready to pay for one. I go, how much is the Holland autograph? He goes, oh, these cases aren't for sale. I'm like, none of it? He's like, nope. I'm like, oh, okay. Cool cards.
The funny thing about that you mentioned that is one of my local friends actually, who I didn't even know was going to the convention, went specifically for one of those cards that you're talking about. And he found out the same thing. And he was pretty pissed off as well. The same exact card you're talking about. So, that's something that, like, you can't have it both ways. If you want us to be considerate and not waste your time, do us the favor, especially people that are making day trips and only have a day to see all this stuff.
Right.
Waste our time either,
And then I had another dealer who had a box of autographed UFC cards, and it was all people who were like 3 and 4 or out of the UFC or fighting probably on the boardwalk that night. And I started pulling out cards of fighters. I try to get one card of every fighter, of like fighters I don't have. And I pulled out one card, and he pulls out his phone and starts scrolling for like 30 seconds. And
that's a no-no.
He's like, well, I'm 20 on this one. Then I give him a second one. He goes, types it in. And I'm like, do you have any prices? He goes, well, no, I just go off of the most recent comps. And I'm like, I'm not going to stand here for an hour while you look up 20 cards. Like, be prepared.
Yeah.
Like, be prepared.
Yeah.
It works both ways. And we had, when I had you on to prepare for the National, we talked about that for people as buyers, kind of already have your price in mind of what you want, and don't start looking for comps on your phone right there. And it works both ways. Dealers shouldn't do that either. You should come to your table.
No, absolutely not.
Your table should be set up either already priced out, or at least have a catalog of your stuff saying, oh, I didn't have time to price it all, but I have it all written down here. That one is this price. Have it all written down ahead of time, because that's just nothing more of a turnoff than not having stuff priced. To me, I feel like if it's not priced, it's like a restaurant that has no price in the menu. I can't afford to eat there. So I'm moving.
Right. And I just didn't have time. It's like everybody else is saying. I just got to the show. I found something that I'm relatively interested in, and you're going to sit here. And meanwhile, you've got other people that want to look at other stuff that you also don't have priced. So, like, are you going to make people wait 10 minutes while you talk to me? It's just really bad etiquette. And it's on top of the guy who wouldn't sell me his Tom Holland autograph and then kind of like smiled at me like he was happy to tell me no. But I was like, all right, well, whatever.
Getting online to check their prices anyway. I mean, with no internet reception in there.
Well, those are the guys who probably pay $80.
Yeah, $80 a day to get online was just ridiculous.
All right, guys. It's like business 101. It's like, especially when you're dealing with niche cards, it's like not only are you blowing the immediate sale, but you're blowing something that could potentially be a long-term thing where people will come back to you, So it's just that's smart to me.
Let's move on to the inevitable conversation here. We've only barely even said any words about the panel. Thoughts, guys?
It was a nice panel.
Way to wrap it up there, Seinfeld.
I personally enjoyed the breakdown. I like how you guys did it in the sense of each person was a pro in a certain department. You guys dealt with a certain era, and then you had the modern guys with the Card Foundation. I like how you kind of went along the line, and each person had their main area of focus. I thought that was well organized and well put together.
Thank you.
I really, compared to some of the other panels that we saw, that we had quite a bit of engagement from people in terms of asking questions. And not even the plants that we had in the.
I should mention, Tony, I forgot I just got this a little while ago, but we got an email from Dan Burkus, who's the guy that runs the whole show, and he basically said that he's glad that everything worked out for us, and thanks again.
That was it, huh? So, because I was going to close this show out like maybe next year.
Well, I responded that if they do a similar kind of format next year, we'd be more than happy to turn up again.
Okay.
I enjoyed that we actually had people in the audience waiting to listen to us. I mean, we had, I think I counted at one point, we had at least 35, 40 people there in the audience. And when I looked at one of the live streams that was on there later that evening, it looked like there was at least 100 people that had watched it on live stream when it aired. And we've already got about 200 views online, because there's a couple different places. WTC obviously is the best place to watch it. But the place
GTS.
that videoed it for us, what is it? Go GTS Live.
Yeah.
They have it on YouTube also, and they've got about 45, 50 hits on it already too. So we're getting out there. And the funniest part, I mean, it just kind of broke me up on the panel, that kind of lightened the mood, was we were right in the middle of about the first 10 minutes. And then the guy over the loudspeaker comes on telling about how we're going to be closing in an hour. Please do. And we all just kind of sit there and look at each other.
But you know, to piggyback on what Chuck said, you got to remember too, is that you guys did this panel in the last hour of the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is typically when people are really hustling. If they're there for the day or they're not going to be back the next day, that's when they hustle to go to all the tables that they haven't seen yet and to get their deals done, because at 6 o'clock, they start kicking you out. You got to go. And so to have that kind of engagement and that kind of audience, knowing it's the last hour of the show, really speaks volumes as to people were interested. They wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to see what it was all about. And I think that that's a real strong selling point for next year.
Agreed.
Sure.
Agreed.
Well, you guys saw it from the audience perspective. Ryan, Chris, how did it look to you guys?
It looked like it was pretty decent in terms of actual people that were there. There was one guy that kept asking a lot of questions that I wish I could have heard his questions, and I wish maybe, you know, the moderator that was there could have said what the questions were, so we heard that side of things. But aside from that, I mean, I thought it seemed pretty seamless.
Yeah, I thought it was laid out really well. And then I know you initially said you wanted to talk for 45 minutes. I think you talked for about 30. But then the questions kind of carried the rest of it into the last half hour.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, you know, next time, I think it'd be really cool to see in the future that the next year when you do this panel, I have no doubt you will do it, that maybe Panini has a hand in being part of it. Maybe they get a product rep to come talk to you about something, or maybe whoever's taking over the license, because, you know, it's in limbo for the next couple of years, to get the engagement from the companies to help, because the companies do help. They you know, they're a big part of the women's panel that was in front of you guys. Yeah. And they're really a big part of a lot of the other panels. And I think it'd be nice to get that kind of, you know, to get them to help out with that as well.
Yeah, it would be really cool. It would be really cool if we could have gotten like a promo card from Upper Deck AEW or Panini with WWE, kind of like the Women in the Hobby panel before us had. They were passing out like special 2022 Allen and Ginter stamped with the Women in the Hobby stamp on it. It would have been really cool to have something like that we could have passed out to people.
But these are all things for next year. Yeah. You know, these are all things to just expound on. So
yeah, because definitely, I think we kind of saw from this year, wrestling definitely isn't a secret anymore. People are into the wrestling cards. They understand there's a market there for it. There's some value there. There's obviously a lot of nostalgia attached to it, of course. But yeah, it's, you know, the panel came out at the perfect time, I think.
Sure.
Next year,
fun. Lots of fun.
Next year, should we do it next year?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Totally.
Absolutely.
One thing I would like to see next year that I was kind of jonesing for, just in general, especially if more of the wrestling guys show up, is if we can maybe organize some sort of small trade night event.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, because I had a hard time. I brought a case and everything, and I really just kind of wanted to have fun little trades with people. I wasn't trying to profit or make money. I mean, that's always nice, but it would have been nice to just do straight up trades with people. And I was hesitant, aside from the fact that our dinner was at the same time, but I was hesitant to go to that big trade event because I figured it was going to just be more of what I saw on the main floor of the vintage stuff, the football stuff, so to have our own little subset of a small wrestling trade night thing, I think would be a really good time.
Yeah, I was walking around with a whole briefcase full of indie stuff and AEW stuff, and I don't think I pulled any of it out for anybody.
Same. I had some indie cards, and I just left them with Tony for a shop.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put them on display in the store when the store opens.
I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, right?
Nope.
Yeah.
So as you pile on and add on, in 2, 3, 4 years, this could really be something. It really could.
I think we did good for our first time out.
I think you did great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to hear other people's thoughts on it. Those who haven't watched the panel yet, go check it out. We have it here on the WTC channel here, so go check it out. It was I'm really happy they gave it to us. They recorded it and gave us a copy of it because I know we were trying to record it through our phones, and my phone died, Nick's phone died, the Card Foundation guys' audio and video didn't really, all of our qualities were really kind of grainy. So to get that quality from the guys who recorded it was nice, because originally they sent us, they go, here you go, thanks so much. They sent me a link to the Dropbox. It was only the first 15 minutes.
Right. We thought we're leaving Atlantic City with 15 minutes of panel.
Yeah, and I go, oh, this is gonna suck. And James, shout out to James over there from the company. He was awesome. Yeah, he took care of us and sent us a nice link. And he said, at the very least, I'll go ahead and future card or current card collector, I bet, right?
You like cards, right?
Yeah.
All right, scram out of here. Go.
That's a paid spot right there. That's a plant. It was nice because some guys thought, Brian Williams was there, and guys thought that maybe we asked him to show up there. No, he just showed up. So that was great. We had Brody the Kid was there. We had asked him to come, and he came by and checked it out too. So I was really happy to have him come by. End of the day, like you said, people kind of do their final deals. Just happy to have what we had there, and I think we got our point out there pretty good.
We had a guy right at the end of the Q&A who said, I've missed most of your show, but I was wondering if you talked about such and such a subject. And I thought that was pretty neat because he knew what we were. He hadn't been there all evening, and he walked by and heard us talking and jumped right in with a question about I guess the early Olympic wrestling.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Yeah.
It was good stuff, man. I really enjoyed it. We were kind of a little worried about hoping it's all going to go well, but I think it turned out great. So year one.
I'm looking forward to next year. I really am.
Year one is in the books, folks. So anybody else got any other further comments you wanted about this year's show? Anything else that just just to further stress the key message of our whole discussion. I mean, it's almost cliche at this point, but like the experience of meeting these people, our people in real life,
it's nice.
It's really unlike anything else. I mean, it's like when we were at that dinner table, it was like we were speaking Klingon. It's like we speak our own language that we comprehend so well that it could just go on, and it's it's irreplaceable. Those types of things.
I mean, for us, this is the first time that I've met Paul in person, and we're talking damn near 20 years of communicating back and forth through emails and phone messages like that. I ran into Chuckster for the first time last August in Steel City Con, but
we had that one night where we were up, I don't know how late, and if you guys don't know, Tony's met everybody over the years in his business, and he's kept all the pictures. So he's showing me this guy and that guy. He's met Vince, he's met Keith Emerson, he's met this person, and there's a story with everyone. And we were just shooting a shit for what, like hours, like we're sharing pictures, going like, oh, this one time I was in his bed, and he was showing me a picture, he'd tell me a story, he'd ask a few questions, tell me a story. It was just like, those are the things I remember, more so than cards. But so thank you guys. It was a real fun experience. And let's do it again, Chicago.
We'll do it again, Chicago, guys. I got nothing else for you guys, man.
No, great seeing you all again.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Seeing you guys.
Nice meeting everybody.
All right, guys, you guys know what to do, man. Like, subscribe, share, comment, bitch, complain. If you were there, let us know what your thoughts were when you were at the National. You know, probably pretty similar to ours, I'm sure, when it comes to the sights and smells of the wonderful Atlantic City. Yeah, that's all I got, man.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, guys.
All right, guys. See you soon.
Thanks. Take care.
We're
Bye.
out.
Good night, everybody.